The transfer names have been flowing out of Provo. Is that a problem?
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin, and thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest and craziest sport on planet Earth. Steve Angeli's officially at Syracuse. Beau Atkinson did not go to Georgia. He did not go, but he did go to a blue blood out there and an ACC job opening that isn't open yet, but it's not going well. That's all on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Jake Hatch of Locked On BYU Cougars is here, not of the Houston variety. They're both in the Big 12, but you got to separate those two because right now, Jake, I didn't expect to see Keelan Marion in the portal. I didn't expect to see Harrison Taggart go into the transfer portal. That's a wide receiver and a linebacker, respectively. What is happening here in the spring transfer window for Kalani Sitake's team?
That's a great question, Spencer, because you and I both didn't expect either one of those two to hit the transfer portal. So I think it's a simple sign of the times. We're looking at guys, in the case of Keelan Marion, who's an All-American kick returner. Guess what? People are willing to pay a premium for that type of a talent. And obviously, he's visiting the types of programs like a Miami, like an SMU. ASU in the Big 12 is also a destination he could end up at. He's also supposed to visit SMU. So he apparently is looking to cash in on his fame and his NIL, and good on him. With regards to Harrison Taggart, I'm a little more baffled by that. He's a starting linebacker, was a part of a trio of really, really good linebackers, quite possibly the strongest unit across the entire roster for BYU. Why is he leaving? I don't know.
Yeah, I just looked at both of these names and thought, wait a minute. BYU was just a Big 12 contender. These guys were a part of that, and I don't know where Taggart's going to end up, but the list of schools you just named there for Keelan Marion, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If you're going to leave a place like BYU that, maybe they won't start 9-0 again. Let's go out on a limb and say that they won't start 9-0 playing a bunch of one-possession games. Okay, sue them, everybody. But they are going to be good. They're going to be an upper-tier Big 12 team, or expected to be. And yeah, ASU is one of those favorites as well, but I can't see the NIL situation at ASU compared to BYU. That doesn't seem like a massive upgrade for somebody like Marion, because Kenny Dillingham's been working tirelessly to get more NIL juice, to get more people involved with the program. He's done a very good job. Winning the Big 12 helps, but that's the other thing that doesn't make sense to me here, is it's not like Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, somebody like that came calling.
And that I'm with you on that. I just simply think, and there's some people who have been talking, well, Jake, BYU said they're not going to be, they use the quote, outbid anymore. Well, I think that BYU has a parameter of what they think a wide receiver and a kick returner of Keelan Marion's ilk is worth. Other programs apparently are willing to pay more than BYU's willing to pay, and they're paying the price with him leaving the program. But you're right. The caliber of programs that he apparently is visiting and entertaining offers from don't scream, the Alabamas, the Georgias of the world. They're kind of that second tier.
Looking at how this impacts BYU's roster, Jake, are you confident they have guys that are going to be able to replace that production one-to-one, especially Taggart, who was really good? One-time Oregon Duck many years ago, 4-star recruit coming out of high school, experienced player at this point in college football. I think he's one of the best linebackers now available in the transfer portal, because that hasn't been a position, quite frankly, where you've seen a lot of high-level guys go in and change teams in the spring window. I felt the same way in the winter transfer portal window, but that's a guy who has got Power 4 starting experience on a really good defense. He was productive, but Marion and Taggart, I know there's a defensive lineman who left as well, but those two guys, talk about how BYU replaces them.
Okay, so on the Taggart front, let me pass along something. So BYU, like most teams, it plays a 4-2-5 alignment when they play against spread teams. Well, that means only 2 linebackers are on the field. Well, if you look at the snap totals from last year, Spencer, last year Harrison Taggart played 464 snaps. You had Isaiah Glasker, who was a breakout star, an absolute sensation last year. I think a lot of people remember him doing the primetime shuffle right in front of Coach Prime in that bowl game in San Antonio. Glasker played 771 snaps. Then you add Jack Kelly, who's a bona fide NFL draft prospect, into the mix. He played 813 snaps. Those two, Glasker and Kelly, played almost, in one case, double the snaps of Harrison Taggart. So I think if they go to more of this 4-2-5 alignment, which is more and more what I think the base alignment will be for BYU, it sure looks like Harrison was essentially the odd man out and is looking for more reps. Now, I think you can replace that, obviously, with that, and obviously a Siali Acera, who BYU was very high on coming out of spring ball. On the Marion front, he is an All-American kick returner. I think Parker Kingston, who's a very good punt returner, probably steps into that role and fills that role there. At wide receiver, though, I do think it leaves a little bit of a hole, but the hope is that some of the young talent BYU's recruited recently, Cody Hagan, Tei Nakua, and Dominique McKenzie, all Utah Prep high school stars, it is their chance now to step up in training camp and take that role.
Nakua. That's an interesting name. Really interesting. BYU had any success with anybody of that name in recent years? Has that worked out?
Some guy who's one of the toasts of the town down there in Tinseltown, they call it in LA. Yeah. Guy named Puka?
Yeah. He was good. He was pretty good. Anyway, do you think BYU, while the portal is open and available, and important distinction that I don't know that everyone always remembers, and frankly I forget sometimes, when you hear about a portal window opening and it's closing soon, that is your deadline as a player to enter the portal. You can exit the portal at any time. Yes. Players could come out of the portal and join football programs in June if they so choose. But there is generally a greater sense of urgency than that for football. College basketball is a little bit different. But do you see BYU going to address any of these departures in the transfer portal?
I would imagine they will obviously scour and see if they can find some guys out there. I knew that they're doing their due diligence. Now, they did add a tight end last night. Ethan Wood is a former prep star here in the state of Utah, played at Snow College, and then this past season was at New Mexico State, but had a really injury-marred run with the Aggies. He's now coming back home to the state of Utah and committed to BYU last night. Now, tight end's a position group that needs maybe a little more depth to bolster it, so they've obviously addressed that there. But I do expect them to look in the portal. And I think in the way that BYU's roster is built, Spencer, they're more looking for I use the term best players available that they can add to this roster they think can help bolster it and obviously make sure it's better. I think it's a bigger concern to add a wide receiver than it is a linebacker.
Wide receiver is one of the most abundant positions. There are guys from the Group of Five or FCS ranks who are going in the portal all the time who have proven production, at least at the level where they were. Guys from Incarnate Word, guys from Georgia State, like all over the place. Is there anybody that you think BYU has their sights set on right now? Are they going to try to get in the Trevor Pena sweepstakes?
I would imagine to kick the tires on anybody who's interested. If you want to fan the rivalry flames, go and chase Zacharias Williams, who just left Utah and was apparently the bona fide wide receiver 1 for the Utes in spring ball. That would only, liven up this rivalry all the more than it already is right now. I do think BYU will look at all options, and I do expect them to add at least 1, maybe 2 wide receivers.
Yeah, I think that passing game with Retzloff was just so good last year. I think Retzloff is really good. I thought his receivers made a lot of big-time plays last year. It turns out, bear with me here, Jake, quarterbacks and receivers can help one another. Whoa.
Breaking news.
I'm off the rails today. I need to be shut down for such hot takes. Jake Hatch, Locked On BYU Cougars, should never be shut down, and really neither should the portal. What if it was year-round portaling? That would be... I'd make content on the show a lot easier. I'd tell you that. Steve Angeli, though, is officially at Syracuse, and that changes not as much as the Orange would like. First, this episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. And if you want to bet college football because you like it, which you probably do if you're listening to or watching the show, you can do that over at FanDuel because they have got win totals for every Power 4 team plus Notre Dame. They have got national championship odds. They've got conference championship odds, Heisman odds. Individual games can even be wagered upon, including Ohio State, Michigan, and many more. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Check them out at FanDuel.com. Some say this show has the power to speak things into existence. Other people doubt that notion, and I present to you Steve Angeli, who was discussed earlier this week on the show with Jackson Holzer of Locked On Syracuse as a potential or perhaps likely transfer portal target. And what do you know? After he loses the quarterback battle in South Bend, Indiana with Notre Dame, he's now going to Syracuse. And this is not Kyle McCord 2.0. It really isn't. Angeli is a veteran of college, not so much college football. Now, he's played football for multiple years, but to say that he's a proven commodity at quarterback is not an accurate assessment. Do I think Angeli is interesting? Yes. Is he the most veteran type quarterback that was available? Yeah. I mean, according to 24/7, the next highest rated quarterback that was available in the transfer portal was Jaden Rashada. There was also Giovanni McCoy, who transferred from Oregon State to Texas State and is now going to go on his way to Temple. That's not the sort of guy, though, stylistically, that Syracuse would look to add in a very pass-happy offense, even if they don't have Trevor Pena in the fold there at wide receiver. So Brian Smith of the Portal podcast noted his strengths and some career stats and sums it up really, really well in this particular tweet. 10 career passing touchdowns, just one interception, 772 yards passing, most effective in the short to intermediate range, doesn't turn the football over, play action is strength, has leadership qualities. Like, it's solid. It's solid. It's a good move. It doesn't change my outlook of Syracuse in 2025. Their win total, according to our friends at FanDuel, is 5.5. I don't believe that Angeli moves the needle for the Orange. I think what he presents is an opportunity, if Ricky Collins is not actually healthy, to go and have somewhat of a surefire thing. Again, I say somewhat because he's got 80 career pass attempts. He's got 700 yards passing. Like, it's just, there's not a huge volume of work here. Now, I'll get the negative stuff out of the way, and then I'll go back to being optimistic Spencer here on the show. FanDuel, by the way, has not moved Syracuse's win total at 5.5. Their schedule is brutal. Absolutely, positively brutal. And the fun note about all of this is that Angeli was maybe a target for Tennessee. That was a prediction that Tyler Wojak of Locked On Notre Dame made on this very show. And for a little while, it seemed like it was going to come to fruition. Yeah, lo and behold, it did not. And he winds up at Syracuse. But he's been around college football. He's seen what high enough level quarterback play is to make the college football playoff. In Riley Leonard last year, who, I felt as a passer, they made it in spite of Notre Dame's passing attack, not because of it. But that's a guy who's been around college football for a while, has won a lot of games. He knows how to carry himself. He knows how to learn an offense. He knows how to do a lot of things. The biggest question is, does he know how to be a starting quarterback? That's not the greatest question to ask. Now, there are two pieces of good news here for Syracuse. And no, Ricky Collins potentially being hurt in a serious fashion that they felt the need to bring in Steve Angeli as a veteran presence in the room isn't really the good news that I was thinking of. The first piece of good news is this is a guy who was just legitimately competing to be Notre Dame's starting quarterback. That's one of the top 5 national championship odds teams in all of college football, and justifiably so. They're the national runners-up, they're 6th behind Penn State, Oregon, Georgia, Texas, and Ohio State. Notre Dame's right there. They were just legitimately giving this guy a look. It wasn't for no reason. He was Riley Leonard's backup last year for a reason. The potential, I think, is absolutely there. There just isn't I mentioned Kyle McCord earlier. He went 11-1 with Ohio State. 11-1 was one drive away from going to the Big Ten championship game, going to the college football playoff, and he got pressure in his face, forced to throw a little bit, made an interception against a team that went on to win the national championship in the Michigan Wolverines. So, yeah, not a whole lot of shame there. I didn't expect McCord to be as good as he was last year, but I certainly think that he comes in with more cachet at the quarterback position than Steve Angeli does. So the upside, though, is Notre Dame was just legit. It was not a fake battle. It was not a faux pas. It was not a facade and other unnecessarily fancy words to describe something that isn't real. There was a battle in South Bend. CJ Carr just won it. CJ Carr was just better. That guy is an incredibly talented young up-and-comer in the quarterback realm in college football, and he beat out Steve Angeli. That's all there is to it. Just because you're not good enough to beat him out doesn't mean you aren't good enough to start. He was getting a look for a reason. He stuck around at Notre Dame for a reason because the staff probably told him, we believe you have a chance to start one day. And he got that chance, just wasn't able to win the battle. So you have someone who's capable there. Upside number 2, this is more big picture. Because I don't view Syracuse's season, who are a fascinating team in the ACC, they, along with Duke, were just wildly underrated 10-win teams last year. Duke was 9-3. Both went 9-3 in the regular season. Syracuse won their bowl game to get to 10 wins. Duke did not. Their quarterback left. That makes it slightly difficult and whatnot. But the way that Syracuse looks at their long-term outlook is better because the likelihood that Fran Brown gets hired after this season is now a lot lower. Because this is your reality at quarterback and you couldn't get Kyle McCord next year of eligibility, and it's Steve Angeli or a banged-up Ricky Collins, or maybe it's Ricky Collins, who himself is not the most experienced guy in the world at the quarterback spot, you now have an opportunity to bring back Fran Brown for a third year. And yeah, that is a legitimate concern. This guy is making public statement. You notice how Fran Brown's popping up in national news stories a lot this spring? That's not by accident. By his camp or by other people like myself or many others who recognize this guy is good, really good. Remember, he came from Georgia and Kirby Smart. You know who else came from Georgia and Kirby Smart? Dan Lanning. Pretty good. So the coaching tree of Nick Saban and Kirby Smart, it's pretty darn good. So Fran Brown, after a 10-win season, if he had the opportunity to bring back Kyle McCord or follow it up, there's a real solid chance it would be the last time he coaches a game for the Syracuse Orange. That's not the case anymore. This could still be a solid year, but I think it's a season where Fran Brown is hopefully setting realistic expectations with his athletic director and just the administration and the fan base. I'm sure that's not how he thinks. I'm just saying it's how he should think. The schedule is really hard. It's why their win total's 5.5. They're not going to be as good of a team. They've lost some key guys to the portal. You've lost your quarterback and top 2 receivers from a passing-laden team that went 10-3 last year. Yeah, it's going to be a lot tougher. But you get to keep Fran Brown around for another year and allow him to grow to love Syracuse that much more, and perhaps increase the possibility that he sticks around for another season or 2 after that. But this will be a consistent offseason topic on my show until he isn't the head coach of Syracuse. He's going to keep getting looks. He just is. I think he's a really impressive guy. I think he's a really good coach. He does a lot of things well. There's just a lot to work with there. So the Steve Angeli to Syracuse move, official. Is he going to be officially the starter? Time is going to tell. I tell you someone who is going to start, I think, for the Ohio State Buckeyes, Beau Atkinson. So this is someone who I talked about on the show recently as one of the top defensive line targets that will move all spring. Beau Atkinson coming off the edge. He's not JT Tuimoloau. He is not Jack Sawyer. He is, I think, someone, because he's a veteran, is being brought in to replace the production of what the Buckeyes just lost to the NFL draft, which is a lot. 3 or 4 defensive linemen from that unit, couple of linebackers, couple of DBs. They lost a lot of guys. This is a really nice, solid pickup for the Buckeyes. I don't expect them to wreck games the way JTT could, as I remember doing against Penn State years ago, or Jack Sawyer against Texas in the playoff semifinal. That's not my expectation here. I do think this is a really, really good pickup. And he was someone who Georgia was looking at. Why? High-end transfer target. He has got size coming off the edge. He has got speed. He's got good pass rush moves. This is a guy that can go out and make plays for Ohio State's defense this year, coordinated by Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia. Yeah. Yeah. Matt Patricia. I tell you what, it's strange It's weird, but weirder things have happened in college football. So that's your portal news of the day. Oh, wait, we're not done with portal news, of course, because there could be an ACC job opening as soon as next year. First, this episode brought to you by Amazon and the Amazon Fire TV Stick. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV with Wi-Fi 6/6E and auto low latency mode advanced technology. Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with the lightning fast speeds that you need to stay competitive. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices including Fire TV Stick 4K second generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max first and second generation, and Fire TV Cube third generation. Go check them out and get your Amazon Fire TV Stick today. So jobs come open all the time, right? Would it be totally crazy, wild, out of the blue, unexpected if the Cal job, a classic ACC power if ever there was one, became available? Yes and no. Justin Wilcox signed an extension not that long ago. But it's a mess in Berkeley. I mean, a full-fledged mess. Fernando Mendoza is at Indiana now. Why? Because he didn't want to be at Cal anymore. Well, that's not a good start. Your running back, Jaden Ott, who's been a staple of stability, consistency, and an identifiably explosive and exciting player for your fans to get behind, he hit the portal along with the next four guys on the depth chart. Multiple receivers have hit the portal. There was a legendary drive last year in which Cal went, I think it was 98 yards down the field to ultimately win the big game against Stanford. It was epic. It was the highlight in retrospect of Cal's season, probably. Beating Auburn on the road was also really, really good. They weren't able to capitalize on that because that's kind of how the Justin Wilcox era has been for the Golden Bears. But you now have a portal exodus without a coaching change except for the coach that you introduced. So Cal's offensive coordinator, for those who don't know, is Brian Harsin. That Brian Harsin, the former Auburn head coach, who the fans are not real fond of. The former Boise State coach who had a lot of success. He was brought in to be their offensive coordinator after they lost their offensive coordinator to Baylor, I believe is where he went. They bring in Harsin, and it hasn't been good on the personnel front. Now, as I always remind people, there's a window for when you can enter the portal. You can come out of the portal at any time. Anytime. So there is still time. There are players available for Cal to go out and get. But right now, I'm pretty sure if you handed the ball off for the Golden Bears, it would be to a walk-on. I don't know that they carried 6 scholarship quarterbacks, but their top 5 hit the portal. They've got more departures. It's a mess. From a personnel standpoint, it's an absolute mess. They have Ron Rivera as their general manager, the same way Andrew Luck, who inserted himself to practice the other day. That guy misses football at least a little bit. But he's the general manager at Stanford, your rival across the bay. And Ron Rivera is in there as a general manager to deal with coaching moves and personnel, right? We're starting to see the evolution and introduction of this role across all of college football. Chad Bowden is doing great things for USC on the recruiting trail. You've got Oklahoma's got a new GM. Like there are a lot of high profile. Jim Nagy is the guy that they hired. There are a lot of high profile general managers now that are making a serious impact on the program. So far, the Ron Rivera impact hasn't been good for the football program. There's no other way to see it. Too many guys have left. The Bears are a downward trending program right now. They're being hit as hard as anybody in the entire country in the spring transfer portal window. Their win total is sitting at 5.5. I might go bet the under while you still have the chance. Now, what they're going to do at quarterback, I don't know that that's been made entirely clear. They brought in a 5-star true freshman in Jaron Kiave Sangopolatele. They also brought in Devin Brown from Ohio State. I would think Brown's going to be able to win that job. We'll see. I don't know if there's been final confirmation one way or the other, but who are they throwing the ball to? Who are they handing the ball off to? They already have had troubles in the last several years fixing the offensive line. So if the same sorts of problems arise, I just don't know what I'm wondering about this whole situation. Who's getting the blame? Because someone is getting the blame. Someone is going to be, if the roster does not completely change course in the next couple of weeks, someone is going to be held accountable for what just happened to the roster from last year to this year, in which you made a bowl game again. Okay, that's fine, but not great. We were hoping you'd take a step forward, to now it feels like you have a significantly worse football team in one offseason. That's not going to just get ignored. I don't know if that's Ron Rivera's doing. I don't know if that's Brian Harson's doing. I don't know if that's Justin Wilcox is doing. But there are more realities, there are more timelines where it winds up coming back to the head coach, as it should, than ones where it doesn't. Because if Brian Harsin is the problem, well then guess what? Who hired him? Justin Wilcox, the head coach? Was Ron Rivera involved? I don't know. I do know that Justin Wilcox has never won more than 8 games during his tenure as a Cal football coach. This is an ACC job that could be better than I think most people on the outside would realize. There is a bigger fan base in Berkeley that is willing to show up for a program that plays an exciting brand of football if you were able to deliver it. They haven't done that. And so why I continue to wonder, as I have many times over the last several months, if this job is coming open by the end of this year, is this has the feel, unless they are able to shift course and dramatically alter their roster to make it significantly better in the next couple of weeks, they're going to be at a talent disadvantage in a lot of the games that they play. That's not a good spot to be. I don't care what conference you're in. Yeah, the ACC is workable. Great. So what? That honestly makes it worse. That kind of raises the pressure when it's like, hey, you're in the ACC, you're not the Big Ten or the SEC, or else you might get a little bit of leeway there. But I'm just so perplexed by this whole deal. It's just weird. You've got Wilcox, you've got Harsin, you've got Rivera, and you've got everybody leaving. Why is everybody leaving? Wilcox is going into his 9th year. Why does this feel unstable? Why does this feel trending in the wrong direction? That's an ACC job I'm keeping a really close eye on this year. I don't think Cal is going to go 2-10. Well, I don't know. Let's see where the roster's at going into the spring. The schedule is okay, but I don't think they'll go 2-10. I think Wilcox is too capable of a game day coach to allow that to happen. But, you know, they lost guys like Craig Woodson to the NFL draft, and now just cut their entire offense. And you have a new offensive coordinator. They need to make some moves. I don't think they go 2-10, 3-9, but feels like 6 wins is the ceiling again. And if you go from back-to-back bowl games to 4 wins, is that enough to pull the trigger with the offseason narrative? It might be. It might be. Just keep your eye on what's happening in Berkeley. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.